welcome to the Intriguing Beings podcast with me, Roo Chater. Episode 10 with Raphael Salles. Hi everyone, hope you had a fantastic Christmas break and enjoyed the festive season. It's a little bit behind us now. I think I'm recording this on the 24th of January. Time seems to be flying. It's been a busy start to the year. We've been working pretty hard on the magazines and also a couple of projects that we're involved in at the moment. So it's been all go. Mary and I are still a little bit homeless, so we are waiting for the Welsh house to go through. I know a few of you have messaged and asked about it and also inquired about kitesurfing sessions when we're there, which is nice. But that looks like it might be happening soon. Currently, we're house sitting for a friend over in near the Three Valleys, a little place called Villemartin. A friend of mine called Chris Moran, who is an old famous snowboarder. Probably hate me saying old and famous snowboarder. While I think about it, actually, I'll try and get him on the podcast because he's got a few interesting tales to tell from the days of the late 90s when snowboarding was becoming hugely popular and him and his buddies were kind of ruling the scene in the UK. So I'll definitely try and get an interview with him at some stage. Anyway, moving on to this week's episode, Raphael Salles. I normally introduce people and I say, oh, they're a friend of mine or I've known them for a while. But I honestly feel like part of the family with Raph whenever I'm around him and his team at F1. And that's something we talk about in the podcast. We've got a relationship that goes back all the way to about 2004, I think, when I first met him. So quite a long time. And we've been in a few scrapes together would be a good way to put it. Raph organises these incredible trips abroad and I sometimes go and take photos for him or he invites me along to write stories. And there's been a few incidents along the way. I've been party to some of them and I've heard about others. They famously nearly sunk a helicopter when the tide came in. Actually, we don't talk about that in this podcast. And then the infamous one that a few of you will know about was the time that we actually flipped a boat over in Mauritius and nearly died, I guess is probably the right way to put it. Essentially, the island was on a red flag day, which meant no boats or craft were allowed out. The reef was pumping sort of 4 to 5 metre swell at 20 odd seconds and one eye was just immense. You couldn't go out there. Raph and the team obviously still wanted to get some photos, so they gathered the photographers. They drove us off for about an hour and a half into the middle of nowhere where we met some fisherman dude. I wanted to say dodgy guy, but he was just a fisherman that Raph had persuaded to take us out so we could take some pictures. Raph and the pro team went out, and I remember after about an hour of driving out to this reef off the coast of Mauritius, in this very small boat with a terrible engine, there were these stand-up barrels rolling in. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you too much of that story because I think there's a whole series of funny stories that I've got myself into that I could do in separate podcasts. But the long and short of it was we were out there and we flipped the boat and it all went horribly wrong. Since that moment, I think I've had a connection with Raphael that not many people have in the industry, and I always treat him with the utmost respect as he does me, and I do consider him I do consider to be almost a member of the family. So I really enjoyed sitting down for this podcast in Madagascar when we were there, and it was great to be able to ask him a few questions about how he runs his business, because for me it's not just about kite surfing with Raph, it's about how successful he's been, how passionate he is and how driven he is. I think he's one of the most passionate people for water sports in the industry that I know. He certainly spends more time on the water testing water sports products than probably anyone else on the planet. I've often said I'd really love to get him a GPS watch that would track the amount of time he spends on the water, because it's just unbelievable. And that's probably one of the reasons why F1 products have reached the heights and the levels that they're at, because, you know, you can't argue with a kite like the Bandit how immense it is at what it does. And that's purely down to the amount of prototypes they get through, the amount of hours they spend on the water testing. Raphael's wife Sophie has a funny story about it where she calls it Raphael time, and in the summer and in the testing season when it is testing time, basically all Raphael does is test kites. Doesn't matter if there's a wedding, a funeral, a bar mitzvah, whatever. If it's windy, he's on the water and he's testing gear. So we talk a little bit about that. We also discuss patents, which is an interesting subject in the business world and in the kite surfing world. A lot of you listening to this might not realise how patents work, and when a brand comes up with something like the Delta design that Raph did, how that influences the rest of the market and how the rest of the market can get involved with things. So there's definitely some interesting pieces in here, but the biggest takeaway for me is the passion that Raphael has for water sports and the products that he creates, and how, as a businessman, he's managed to keep his business as a family business. I think arguably they're probably one of the biggest kiteboarding companies that still run as a family company, and that's testament to his dedication to the sport and his brand that he's created with his family. So without any more chat from me, let's get into this week's episode with Raphael Salles. Enjoy.
This afternoon, I'm sat with a gentleman called Raphael Salles, who has become an exceedingly successful water sports person, businessman, maybe. That's a little bit his wife as well, who knows. Yes, but he's part of the team that heads up a company called F1, who now have Manera as their accessories brand, which is looked after by his son, Julian, who we've also chatted to on this podcast. And they've got into the world of foiling, surf foiling, SUP, anything to do with water sports. Raphael seems to have his name attached to it or be involved in it in some way. So, Raphael, first question for you. How did you get involved in the ocean and the water in those early days?
My father used to be a sailor.
Okay.
So I spent all my early days on boats, always.
Big yachts or small yachts?
Yeah, like 10, 11 meter sailing boat we used to have. And we also had a dinghy for 70 for the summer days.
Okay, cool.
And we used to live in Carnon on the beach.
Yeah.
So I was like 12 years old, 13 years old, and the dinghy was huge for me. Every time the wind was a little bit strong, we needed to be four of us to hold it, you know. And so I had to find friends, and it was a kind of a complicated to carry to the water. And then one summer I saw two Dutch guys in holidays with windsurfers, the first one we saw. I said, wow, this is what I want to do, you know, you're alone, it's easy to carry.
Don't need to organise friends, you can get yourself to the beach.
Yeah, so we got one of the first one that came in France in 76.
I was going to say probably mid-70s, super early
76. And then I started windsurf like that. Before that I was water skiing, sailing, but in the 70s you didn't have so many sports, you know. It's not like today. Surfing we didn't really have, so water ski was already the fun sport.
Yeah.
And then I start to windsurf, I start to do the local races, like South of France, national, international, all the way. So I was a pro from 80 to 94, 95, 15 years, doing only pro windsurfer career.
And that was when Robbie was sort of up there?
Yes, the best year they were the PWA, we call it already. World Cup. So 95, 96, no, 85, 86, 87.
Yeah.
They were the biggest.
Huge events.
Huge event, yeah. We
so much money in sponsorship.
So much money, sponsor. Everyone has a car. The prize money in Japan was $100,000.
Unbelievable.
It was huge, yeah. And those years, I finished third overall. We used to have the three disciplines.
Yeah.
Course racing, slalom and wave. And I finished third overall in 85.
Wow.
Robbie was first. Alex Aguera was second.
No way.
Yeah. I used to be in the Tiga team with Alex Aguera those days. Neil Pride Tiga was the biggest team.
Yeah.
Then I finished 5th in 86. And then the sport changed a bit. I finished 9 in 87, I think. And then we were doing slalom into the waves.
Yeah.
And then we changed, and it was like flat water slalom. So only the speed matter.
Yeah.
Not like
Not the skill
jumping
or-
waves
yeah.
and escaping from the white water or dealing with currents or whatever. It was pure speed, and then the size of the World Cup rider went like if you were below 95, 100 kilo, you had no chance
Yeah.
on the slalom and
Suddenly
cross
everyone
racing.
became really big, like
Yeah.
Bjorn Dunkerbeck and those guys were
So
huge
those
guys.
they was huge.
100 kilos.
So me and Alan Cadiz,
Yeah.
that you can see now on videos with the wings, we were the first one to put some weight.
Yeah.
and the first one to use a weight jacket, and then we catch back the big guys. But then they start also to carry weight, so then it was finished. Then I end up finishing 20, and I kept doing the World Cup, but only for R&D for my sponsor.
Yeah.
So I was following the tour, but more for R&D testing, and that was my really specialty. And those days we used to do long distance, some speed event, indoor at Bercy in Paris. So it was really,
That was a crazy
yeah,
event, right?
that was really fun, really fun.
And you were the number one in France, which is where F1 comes from, right?
I took F1 because I was one of the first who that needed a number, you know. And those days you need to buy some sticky paper and cut them by yourself.
Yeah.
So F1 was like easy to glue.
Easy to do.
Easy to
I'm
do.
number one.
But in France, in windsurfing, we had so many champions. So many in speed, in every discipline.
Yeah, it was a really big sport in France, right?
Yeah,
Pascal
it was
Macker and
huge.
people like that were.
Terry Theo, all
Yeah.
those names. The girls too, Nathalie Lelière, Nathalie Simon, Arnaud de Rosnay,
Yeah,
Jenna de
Rosnay,
Rosnay.
all the big
Yeah,
names.
we were so many. So I cannot say I was maybe on the World Cup I get a really good result, but we were so many champions
in France. Why do you think the French took to windsurfing so much?
We have a lot of cost.
Yeah.
So we started big in France and Germany, like it is for kites too. The biggest market in Europe is France and Germany.
Yeah.
And it was the same for windsurfing. And the US, they surf for the wakeboard.
Yeah.
But they don't really windsurf, kitesurf, all those sports are really smaller in the US than surfing and wakeboarding. They like surf, or they like the boom boom and the music.
Motors and
motors.
loud noises.
Noises, yeah, it's true. It's like that.
And I guess the French temperature's quite, in the summertime, it's
Yeah.
nice and warm all around the coast, from
yeah.
Brittany all the way down to Bordeaux, and
In the 80s,
Mediterranean coast as well.
early 80s, you had thousands of windsurf boards on the water. Really, it was huge in France, yeah. The
And
French market was huge. The brand in France, Tiga and Bic, they were the biggest.
Yeah, Bic was huge, wasn't
Bic
it?
was huge. And then mid 94, 95, I had to stop. So I wanted to be in the R&D team, product manager or something like this, into a windsurfing brand. But I couldn't find my place really into the brand that were still there.
Yeah. I
So
guess it's hard because there's only a few brands and a very small amount of jobs in this industry. So if you're looking for a job and there's not an opening,
they all
it's
fill up,
difficult.
and you have to kick someone out.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, they don't want me, I'm going to do my own brand.
Yeah.
And I start to shape my own windsurf models. And I started with F1 because it was my sale number. And then 95 was really the worst year for windsurfing. The market was going down. It was really not good. So I started too late.
Come to it right at the end.
At the same time, in my career, I was spending 3 times 1 month in Hawaii, going all around the world on the best spot, and suddenly I had to stay home in Montpellier, and it was dead flat. All summer it's super light wind, so I said, wow, I cannot stay in Montpellier and windsurf all year long. It will not work, I'm not used to that condition. So I started to look on what else I could do. And then I start to look at the kites, and I try a power foil. Yeah, it was a foil kite.
Yeah.
Power foil kite. 5 square meter, I think, in 8 knots. Was really light. And wow, I was impressed by the
much power.
I say, let's do it on water, because that power, if one day we can manage it, it will be fantastic. So I start to play with rigid delta kites and foil kite, and that was 96.
Yeah. And was this just on windsurfing boards at that time, or anything you had lying around? You just jump on with a kite that you'd normally fly?
No, I was shaping, so I grabbed a surf I had in the garage, a surfboard, dark form, polyester, and I start to kite with those, and then I start to build my own design to be able to hold the kite a little bit better.
Yeah, and hold an edge.
And then I was trying to sell my windsurf, but I was spending all my time trying to kite. That was tough. This is where Sophie started to worry. What are you doing? We need to eat. And you kite all day. I have to take you back by car because you drift all day. You've been smashed around by those kites. And we don't sell windsurf board because you spend all your days on the kite. No, Sophie, I tell you, one day it's going to be big.
Believe me.
Believe me.
One day it'll work out. And it has, I guess. I mean...
So, I think January 97, we could get in Montpellier the first Wipika kite.
Yeah.
That were built in China.
And who did you see first kiteboarding? Where did you get the inspiration from?
Manu Bertin was French.
Yeah.
And he was a team partner for me in the windsurf. And I could call him, but he was more testing in Hawaii. And we never really see it in France. And I was trying to call him, exchange information. I do like this, and how do you do? But he didn't want to tell me anything.
So just leaving
because he wanted to be the only one kite surfing in the world, so it didn't work. And we had another guy, Laurent Ness, in Montpellier, that was having a kite shop.
Yeah.
And he had a power kite, and he was like buggy French champion.
Yeah.
So he knows a lot about power kite. And he was trying to go into the water, but he was coming from buggy, not from windsurfing.
So he had no water sports
skills. So I say, I teach
skills.
you the water sport, and you teach me the kite, and then we started together.
And
so that was good, yeah. We started like this, and it took us 6 months to be able to go upwind.
Wow.
Almost, maybe more, 7 months, yeah.
Crazy.
And I said, okay, if in half a year we don't go upwind, the sport will never start, because who's gonna go down and be picked up by a car?
6 months trying to learn and learn.
Yeah, learn and how what is the line length you need, and what is the shape of the board and the technique and all those. That was cool. Huh? So we were in 97 the first company to produce and deliver kitesurfing board. So at that time you had to call F1 if you needed a board. And Wipika was doing the kites.
Yeah.
Only 2 brands. That was it. 97 we were alone.
So how many boards
compared to windsurfing, where we were the last brand to pull out on the dead market, we were the first on a brand new market. And that was the beginning of internet, the forum, and all those things.
Yeah.
It was really new. So we had kitesurf.com forum maybe. So everybody was exchanging experience, how you do this,
Yeah.
and where you can get a board. So we get phone calls from all over the world. It was
Hey, we
super
need your
nice.
boards.
You need your board. So maybe the first year we sold 100, 200, but that was huge for us
Yeah.
because windsurfing was really nothing.
And it was
Super
really
difficult.
just you and Sophie at
Yeah.
that time, right?
Yes.
So how do you cope with, you're building the boards, you're
Yeah.
packing the boards, you're doing everything. How's that?
We were producing in Thailand already
Okay.
at Cobra. And I was shaping the board, trying to work out some graphic, but at those days was easy, one logo, one color. I was doing the sales, I was doing the pro rider, I was doing the deliveries, everything we had to do, together.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
And all the while was Sophie saying, is it going to take off? And you're like, yes, it's going to take
that
off.
was okay.
That was okay.
Past 97, 98,
Was
it
all right.
was all right. We were in the crazy market, everybody was into kite. That was cool.
And 97, I mean, that was before most people sort of associate kiting as starting around 98, 99,
Yes.
that kind of time. So that was super, super early
Yeah.
in the sport. And I guess you were just lucky in the sense that you'd tried this power kite, thought, there's a potential here, and had spent months trying to learn it, and then were ahead of the game.
But if all the windsurf guys didn't get into kites, it will never happen,
Yeah.
because you needed all our experience to develop the sport. It was there, but with people from pure kiting or people that do not maybe just try to be pulled by a kite in the water, but all the industry, windsurf industry, when they came out, we make it really work much better,
And turn it into a proper industry
Yeah,
with distribution.
develop
and
the
shops
product, produce them, everything.
And when did you start doing your first kites?
1908 already we had some fall kite, ATK, all-terrain kite.
Have you still got any in the garage? That
Maybe,
you
yeah,
dust down
I
and
should have,
take
but
it out and see what it's
Then
like?
we had the starter kite, because we were really not strong enough financially to invest into the patent, the inflatable kite patent from Bruno Le Guignou. So I was waiting a little bit to make enough money to be able to pay the patent. But after that, I realized that all the other brands, they start and they pay later. I was stupid, I tried to make enough money to pay the patent, but
Should have done what the others
yeah,
did.
they do reverse. They start and they pay later when they want. So we had the first inflatable only in kites, only 2001 or 2002.
Wow.
Mark 1, yeah.
Mark 1.
2001, something like
No,
that.
I remember that was quite a high aspect boosting
Yeah,
machine, like
it was like more performance those days,
super high performance.
yeah.
And then I remember coming to Montpellier, I think was it the Mark IV kite? One with
Yeah.
the eagle, like the wings
Yes,
graphic.
M5.
M5, that's
Yeah.
it, the M5. And
So
I
it should
remember
be 5 years later.
Yeah, so
2004. or
2004, I think it probably was
Yeah.
2004, because that's when I started working for the magazine. And I think it was Leighton Bennett who was working for TKC, who was your distributor in the UK. We came over to Montpellier, and I remember meeting you guys. And up until that point, I remember the brand being quite sort of Euro, French styling, like crazy colours. And then the M5 was much more like a global feel to it. Has it been, tricky in those early days to kind of find your identity as a brand?
Yes. I had to listen a lot and learn, because the windsurfing brand, they had a lot of experience. But from rider to brand manager,
There's a big difference.
yeah,
right?
it's a big difference. From rider to product manager, it's easy. But brand manager, it's another step, because you have to think about image, communication, marketing, graphics. I was really into the product, and for the first years, I didn't understand that graphics are really important. And then I get involved a lot more into the graphics. Maybe the first tribal and all those kites, they were really a lot more into graphics. I had a lot of people coming back to me and said, I buried the kite because they look so good. I love the graphics. And then, well, that was really not a good comment for me. You know, you should buy the kite because it's good. It's good, not because it looks good. But after they were always saying, and I realized after that it's a super good product. But they buy it because it looks good.
Just because of the colors.
So I remember this since the beginning. Now I learned the lesson.
The graphics are
important, yeah. Because you want to invest into something that you like in terms of color too.
And then it wasn't that long after that, I think probably a number of years, when you kind of changed the game of kite industry with the first Delta design, which was the Bandit. And again, I remember, I think that was the second time I went to Montpellier, because I went the first time and then the second time was to see the new Bandit, and so that was
2007.
Yeah, and that was quite a marked step away from the traditional kite designs of that time. Where did that idea come from, and what were you looking to achieve with this new concept?
You have to remember how it was those days. The early days, you had completely new invention every 6 months. It's the beginning of the sport kind of still, huh? The 2000, 2005.
Yeah.
So you had like revolution every year, something new. We went from 2 lines to 4 lines and all those big things. So we needed to have our own design and something new always. So the R&D was really important those days. We wanted to have a better stability and a lot of D-power. So we start to test those Delta C-shape design. And I was really impressed by the result. So I said we just need 1 model. We used to have 2 or 3. And we're gonna gain everything on that one. So we also placed the patent for the Delta C shape. And it was really intense because like in June, beginning of June, it was announcement from Neige that they have a new design, and it was the Sigma.
Yeah.
New Sigma design shape. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, Sigma shape. Yeah.
Sigma shape. And 1 month after them, we announced the Delta shape, this Delta C shape, and we had the bow patent also on the market already in 2005, I think. Yeah. So it was like a huge battle of patent and
design and who had the best
kite design. Yeah, because today all the kite they kind of have the same shape. From far away, you don't really see the difference. But imagine back in 2006, 7, you had the bow.
Yeah, Cabrina crossbow next
to
a Nash Helix
Sigma
with a Bandit
and
from
the
F1.
Bandit Delta C shape. It was really the big fight over the designs. Yeah, but we were successful with the Bandit. It was impressive. We doubled the sales of our kite that season, more than double. It was impressive. Then we kick off, really. We changed completely. F1 was really getting bigger.
I was going to get to it in a second. But when you double the sales of your kite in a season, is it hard to manage that? Because obviously you're forecasting your sales.
I don't know, we did. It was impressive.
And you can only get so much material, and you can only make so many kites, and then you have to sell twice as many. And it's hard to scale up the company that quickly as well. That must have been difficult.
I think in the factory where we've been, we always like 4 or 5 brands in the same factory. We were going up like crazy, but someone else was going down. So we could took some clothes from someone. I don't know who. And
check out the new clothes.
Lucky they had stock. It was impressive. They could produce double the year before. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and then like we said, after that, I seem to remember, was it the Bandit 2 outsold North in Germany at the time or something like that? Like, it really took off, and F1 as a brand suddenly went from one of the sort of middle brands, middle, to suddenly like one of the big contenders. How was that? How did that feel when that happened? That must have been some, thinking back, that's probably 10 years after you started learning to kite. Suddenly it's made it, but that's a hell of a long time to invest thinking it's going to happen.
It's been long, 10 years. From 96 to the Bandit, 2007, it's 11 years. Yeah. But we start with, to start a company in France in the 90s, you needed to have 8,000 euros, and you could start the company. And we just had that with Sophie to start. So we really start from zero. And when you start from zero and you don't want to get some shareholders and things like this, because I want it really to be free and take any decision I want to take always, I prefer it with Sophie to start it small and grow it without having to get new investors every year and lose money or whatever. So it's a matter of being passionate.
And there's not many kite companies that are in that same boat. Like, a lot of kite companies have investors these days, or have had investors their whole life. So it must be quite nice now with F1 at the size it is to know that you still have that freedom to make the decisions that you want to make.
For sure. We had to face new brand with investors, or the windsurf industry getting into the kites. And the windsurf industry, they had the network already, factories, network, dealers, distributor. We had to build up everything from zero. So it was much longer, but it's okay.
Yeah, it worked out in the end.
Since the first day, my goal is to be there in 20 years, 40 years.
Yeah.
It's not like being number one tomorrow and then crash down.
Yeah.
This is not good. Yeah, we have to think always long term.
Just build the company that you can have as a legacy and still
and
have a job in 40 years.
I don't know how is it for the brand to have investors, but sure, now I start to realize that they have to take decisions that are not really good sometimes.
More just for the profit than the benefit of the consumer.
Not the profit most of the time, but the goal is, most of them, is to build it up no matter what way and sell it. So sometimes they do strange decisions because it's only to grow up the brand fast and sell it as fast as possible. And we now think 2 generations with Julien, so we don't take the same decision if you plan it on 40 years than in 4 years.
Yeah.
It's different.
You're not thinking about selling it, you're thinking about passing it on to Julien and then Julien passing it on and keeping it in the family with Camille. And
slowly, nicely,
Yeah, which is nice. And there's always, ever since I sort of first met you guys and came to Montpellier that first time, I always felt there was a very family vibe around the company. And I always loved coming to visit the factory, or not the factory, but the offices in Montpellier, or coming on some of your trips because everyone's so friendly. Is it always, in your recruitment process, do you always sort of have a type of person that you think will fit within that F1 family, and that's why it works so well?
I think of it quite often. In French, we say same character attract together. So it's like your friends. If you get friends, it's because you have same idea, same feeling, same philosophy. So every time we hire someone, he has to be in that philosophy. At the office or our provider, they all kind of have the same profile. So, and then when you have a kind of that group, 5, 10, 20, now we are almost 30 at the office, you can only attract the people that are on the same vibe and same feelings and same philosophy. Sometimes we do mistakes, but they don't last too long.
Get them out. And one of the things I remember with the Bandit 2 was you started this trip to Madagascar, which is where we are now. And we went to, I think you went to Baobambi up in the north,
to
and Anakau down in the south. And that was For me as a journalist, I think it was probably the first mega trip that I've been invited on to say, oh, come with this brand, we're going to do photos and show you the new gear and things like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that you got an incredible amount of coverage from that trip. Yeah. Was that always the plan that, hey, if we get the journalists on side and we take them to these places, they're then going to have the content to publish it? Or did you sort of have that as a goal to help boost the brand? Because I feel like the marketing for your brand went exponentially higher, whereas maybe at the time everyone's like, what's Raph doing? He's taking all these people to Madagascar. He must be crazy.
But since of the beginning of the adventure, I will say, it's so important for me to share the passion. You know, you have two ways, or you want to sell and make money and business, or you want to share your passion with your provider, your distributor, your dealer, the press, the customer too, because I spend all my life at the beach with customer, and I really like to share all this. So I was thinking those days it will be so cool to have the press and share all this together, and as well you guys will be so much better than I am as writing the stories, you know.
Yeah.
That was really important too, It's tough for us sometimes to really explain all our feelings. Yeah.
And I guess because you've always been doing these trips. You know, you've done some
It was
amazing...
big, the first Addict movie, it was a big event,
But you've been doing, like you did the Pacific on the yacht, and you as a personal rider, you've always liked exploring, and you seem to have this need to go somewhere where no one's gone before. I mean, we're in a spot now where no one's really kited. You've obviously invested getting the team riders over here, getting a couple of journalists, photographers, videographers, and we could have arrived. There could be no wind, no waves, and no conditions. You know, that's a risk. So you must be really passionate about.
You need to take risk.
Yeah.
We took a lot of risk in our career. Like when we did the first meeting at the office, and I explained to the salesman that we're gonna have only one kite model, the Bandit, with a new patent. It was like impossible for them, you know, that time. So we always took risk, kind of a risk. It looks a risk from outside, but for me it's natural.
You've thought about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I am out on the water. I do the test myself. I am not like a designer that need to convince the product manager. Product manager need to convince the salesman and the boss and everyone. It's so complicated. It goes direct from the water into the product for us, which is really why we are moving so fast sometimes.
So this was something else I wanted to talk to you about, which always amazes me about the F1 brand, and I think why your products are so good and so well received in the industry is the amount of testing that you do as a brand and the amount of testing that you personally do, because it's always been you spending the time on the water testing the kit. And I remember one year, I think we were chatting at dinner, and maybe Sophie was saying that, come the summer months or the testing months, it's Raphael time, and there can be a wedding, a funeral, or whatever. If it's windy, then Raph can't come because he's testing. He's got to be testing. Has it always been something that you've enjoyed, that product cycle? Because some people really don't like trying new things or constantly changing their setup and constantly tweaking things, whereas I think you almost never ride the same kite. You're always tweaking it.
Yeah. But it's in my, I have two passions, the kite surfing, being on the water, and improving equipment is really something natural for me. I'm trying to take holidays because most of the time it's been only about F1 and kite surfing. So we go snowboarding now.
Yeah.
And at the end of my holidays, I said, Raph, what are you doing? You have 10 snowboards in the garage. You've been testing the 10 boards all 2 weeks to know which one is good on ice, which one is the best on power. And you mark all the bending position on each board and you tune them perfectly each of one. You've been working for your holidays. It's like, so yeah, I cannot stop, you know. You give me something, a car or anything, I will try to tune it and say, why the engineer did it like this? It's so natural. And if I go on the water and something is wrong, it's insupportable for me.
Yeah, we can't do it.
Call Robert, call Charles, said, we need to do this.
Change it.
Yeah, change it. So when I'm kiting, I'll always thinking about my wetsuit, my harness, my bar, my fins, my board, my foot strap, the kite. So when I go back to the office, I have a lot of comments to give back. Yeah. But this is my passion. If you said today you're gonna have a brand or you cannot do R&D and have a R&D team, it's gonna be super painful for me.
Yeah.
If I have to kite 1 year with the same kite, that is not possible.
You'd like to change it.
Yeah. And Mika is the same.
Yeah, because Mika came on to help you with testing, and now you have Robert, Charles.
Yeah, Charles. We're all the same. It's funny. It's
Just
what
like
we
to
said
tweak.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
You always attract the same people.
So it's like, do you want to come and work with us? Do you like riding the same kite? No, right. You can come and tweak things and make things better.
Do you like to go upwind for 1 week every day and tune some knots into the kite and inflate 12 kites every day, test them, then this is what we do.
Yeah. And you have quite a quick turnaround on your prototype processing, don't you? Like you'll ride kites during the week, and then is it Friday you get Robert to change the design, and then Monday you have new kites almost like.
If we design it Sunday, we have it the next Friday usually, when we are in full process.
And how many prototypes did you get through, say, on the new Bandit range?
It's always 80 proto for the new collection of Bandit. But we also have to do the other model now, because now we have more models. We need the one strut kite with the breeze. We need the furtive and the school kite.
Halo, Diablo.
Yeah, all those. So I don't do the testing for the WTF. The kids do it with Robert. I don't do the testing for the foil kite. Robert do it with the foil riders. So with Mika, we only take care of the Bandit, the breeze, the furtive, the thrust, the school kite. I don't do the testing for the WTF board. Me Too is doing a lot on the Me Too now, so I just have to follow up and check the signature and the new shadow. I do it all by myself. But even the SAP, I did the whole range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Malawa,
new SAP, Apeno, many of the boards have been done only by myself. And all the foil collection is done by myself and Mika, all the testing.
There's a huge body of work when you consider like all the different wings for the foils, the masts, and then it's not just that, it's the connection systems and how it all goes together. It's an incredible amount of work.
But last winter, a few months ago, I wanted to have a better explanation of what is our R&D process, because I realized that people don't really know what we do, what the other brand do. It's a little bit confusing for everyone. So we are working now on a special explanation for our R&D. I'm really, since my windsurfing career, I was like 67 kilo fighting against guys that are over 90, 100 kilo. So I always had that need of super balanced equipment. And I'm not someone that's gonna put a lot of power into the equipment to make it work. You should really, you sit in it on top of it, and it should work only by itself. So it's a special things that I have, and maybe some other tester, designer, or team, they don't have it. that need of ultra balanced equipment. And I think now, after 30 years, 40 years of testing equipment, through F1, people start to understand that we have something different in what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're always looking for that.
Special,
doesn't pull you too hard, but delivers the right amount of power.
Smooth.
It's easy to use.
Yeah. Mika is only 57 kilo. So you need that too. So both together, it's really, really important.
Especially you're testing on the south coast of France. It's windy down there, right? So
Super
it's not
gusty.
like you guys are just testing in 12-meter weather. You're testing 5s and 4s. And
super windy, gusty. And yeah, we have the worst wind you can find. So
do you
when
think
you
that
go
helps
through
with
that,
the process?
yeah, that's
that you're testing in rubbish conditions and you need then the equipment to work really well, rather than testing it somewhere nice and warm and sunny. Where it's
we go
perfect
to
wind
Cabo
every day.
Verde the whole winter, but when we go back to France in March, back to testing in France a lot, we have to readapt everything a bit. Yeah.
And the team's grown a lot more now, and although you're still very hands-on with the testing, it used to be, Raph was in charge of everything. Do you feel like you've had to let go of a few things as the company's grown? Because you had the Bandit, the one kite, and all we do is kiteboarding.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all we do is kiteboarding and SUP and accessories for surf and everything with Manera. And then now you've got, the surf foil and everything. So is it hard to let go and just to go, okay, I'm going to trust these guys are going to work on that. The freestyle guys and Robert are going to make great freestyle equipment. Yeah. Is that a difficult thing to sort of do?
No, it's not difficult. And I have to prepare the 10 more coming years. I'm 56 and I'm still in good shape, thanks. And I can do a lot every day. But Mika is 44. He's been testing with us since the Bandit one, so 13 years. So he knows everything. And now someone like Paul Serin, after his freestyle career, should start to test with Mika. And so maybe I can step off a bit and we'll be able to check.
Pass it down the generations.
Yeah, but only doing the checking sometime and not doing the testing for 80 proto per year for the Bandit plus the foil plus the surfboard and everything. That's the goal,
yeah.
Robert is super good. Robert is our kite designer. He's so precise, so motivated, and so talented. And Charles for the foil design, board design is also really, really talented. So I think we have a really good team.
Good people around you.
And every year we get stronger too. We learn, every year we learn a lot, which is good. So we have to improve all together.
And I guess the sport's changing every year as well. So
yeah, it's really what we are living with foil and wings and all the kite surfing sport is changing a lot. You really have to be aware and keep your eyes open, because it can be a disaster for a company if you take the wrong decision.
Yeah. I guess especially when you're still not a small company in the kite world, but in the corporate world, in terms of size, it's still a small industry that we're involved in, servicing a small number of clients. So it's not.
It's
the wrong decision can be costly.
It's really impressive the amount of question we have with Sophie every day from the staff, and the number of right decision you have to do. Because I didn't went to school to learn all this.
No.
I stopped school really early, so I learned it.
So you could go
with
Sophie,
Sophie.
and then
But being the boss is taking the right decision every 3 minutes. You have to take an important decision.
Yeah,
it's really fun. Yeah,
pick the right one. And there was a bit of a chapter just recently surrounding something that people listening to might not know much about. We talked about patents before.
Yeah.
And in the kite industry, everyone's coming up with new ideas and they put a patent on it, and then another brand copies it, and then they tend to go and then give that brand a bill to say, hey, I was this much money because you've been copying it for so long. And there was a situation with the bow kite patent that was then bought by someone who then tried to enforce it.
Yeah.
And effectively, at the time, it could have killed the kite industry, or certainly pushed the prices of kites through the roof and crushed a lot of brands.
They were trying to really ask a lot of money to the brands.
And it was all retrospective as well, wasn't it? So it wasn't
you
have to pay us this. It was like, you owe us millions.
Since 2005, you need to pay, So it was always like, you owe us €1 million, but you cannot ask €1 million to a kite company. This is not possible for a bow patent. I'm okay with patent. If someone patents something and it's right, then I will pay for sure for using an idea from someone. We do pay sometimes.
And sometimes you swap as well, don't you?
Sometimes we swap between companies, sometimes we have to pay. But like the bow patent, they were running after me with using the patent the wrong way, like a troll, we call it. Something like that.
Troll.
Yeah. Well, if you come to me and you say, okay, we're going to sue you, we're going to ask you 1 million. If you pay us $500,000 now, it's okay. No, you cannot talk to me like this. First, you have to prove me that I am really into your idea. If you cannot prove it to me, then I will never pay for sure. And they sue us, and it was really bad. The way they did it. They came to our office with the police.
No way.
Yeah, like if you have a fake Rolex, that was the same.
What?
I don't know you call it in English.
Yeah.
We get 3 police cars on the parking. And they what's happening, and they say we are coming with that lawyer, that patent lawyer, and we want to look at our kite, and we think they are in your patent. So one afternoon they stay in the office. They take picture of the kites, trying to make them looking like a bow kite. So they were forcing, they were pulling the kite so it looks like bow on pictures. It looked like concrete drilling edge and whatever. So I was pissed off. I called huissier. You say huissier in English. It's the people that come to you and try to get back the money that you owe to someone.
Like a debt collector or someone?
No. You call them when you need to say, okay, I have my house is falling down.
Insurance.
Someone that comes. So I call them, and they took picture of the other guy taking the wrong picture, so I can prove that they did it wrong. And then they ask all the invoices of the year. It was like
so many invoices.
So many paper we had to print, and those and this. And they said, we're gonna sue you, and we need €1 million. So I said, okay.
And it wasn't just you they were doing this to; they were doing it to other brands as well.
But we are in France, know, so we really are easy to catch. Yeah, we are in France, and we don't have a company in Hong Kong or somewhere where you never get your money, even if you win.
Yeah.
So easy target. Yeah. Like a chip in the for a wolf. And I was really not happy. And the next day, Bruno Loguenio called me on the phone. I was surprised because when you start a procedure like this, it's lawyers,
never.
Then you don't even talk together. And I answered the phone, it was Bruno. He said, okay, Raphael, now you must be so scared that you're gonna pay for sure. He said, I don't want to say the answer I give to but it was not nice. And then I talked to my lawyer and I say, what is the best? And they told me the patent is the way it is written, you can feed any kite in it, even the kite from before the patent. So they said if you go to court, it will be the decision of the judge, but it might be 50-50.
Yeah.
And I found it really unfair. But when you write the patent, you write it
So broad
so
that
broad that
anyone can get trapped in it.
you can fit any kite in it. Any kite design, even a C shape could fit in it according to the patent. So they said the best is to cancel the patent because of that. So that's what we did. And it was long. Huh? I don't know how many years we spent on that. I had to go to Munich to the European Patent Office like 3 or 4 times. And finally we could cancel it.
And then that was it.
The bow patent. And that was, I received call from all over the world, I tell you.
From the brands
yeah,
that were also being chased for the money.
But also the factories. They were chasing the factory in
so
China.
Chasing the factories for making
even
the
if the
products,
patent is not valid in China, they were chasing
Still
brands.
chasing.
Yeah, telling them that they're gonna stop the product at the border in Europe if they don't pay.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were trying to ask the royalties to the factory and the factory to invoice me.
And all that would have done really is just push kite prices up, made the sport more
they were
expensive
asking
for
so
everybody.
much, then every kite will be like €50
so
more.
they're doing nothing for the sport. They're just
nothing.
crushing it a little bit for the people that
There's
enjoy it, and the
patent
people that are
that-
working hard within it. They're just making their
Yes.
lives a misery for however long.
Yeah,
But you won in
with the
court.
wrong patent, you know.
Yeah, but then you won in court, and then there is no more patent.
No, we cancelled the European patent for the bow design, and they still have the US patent for
Okay.
the bow. But in US, when you want to start suing people for a patent, it costs you
super
so
expensive.
much, then you cannot really do it for kitesurfing. And
Yeah.
the market is too small also.
Yeah. It's
In
not-
US compared to Europe, it's 5 times smaller, so
You're
it
not gonna
doesn't
get that
worth
much
the
money.
price here.
So it's kind of finished. So we can almost say we've got Raphael to thank for keeping prices.
Yeah, every
level.
JK meeting we drink.
Cheers to Raphael.
Thanks. And only valid patent for kite design is the Delta C shape. You have patent for safety system around, you have patent for many system in the industry, the one pump, the release system or whatever. But on the kite design, the only one valid is the Delta C shape. Nothing else.
Which is the one you guys came
Yeah.
up with for the band.
Yeah. And I don't ask money to all the brand, but most of them, they are in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's okay. I don't have time, you know.
Better things
When
to do.
we place a patent, it's more to avoid someone to do it and asking us money for someone we
Yeah.
started.
So if you've
Maybe
started
together
something,
sometime.
yeah.
I agree.
If you start something, it's good that you can have it said that you started.
Yes.
So then in 10 years' time, no one can write a patent for
Yeah,
it and then come after
and
your
come
idea.
after you.
Which is
Yeah.
kind of
So it's
crazy.
more protection, and sometimes, like you said, we can exchange. If we have a brand coming up with a new thing, we can swap
Yeah.
ideas, and it doesn't cost us a lot of euro.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be good for the sport with the chicken loop now, with everyone's moved towards the sort of iron heart system that
Yeah, but we pay.
boards and more did, but you pay, but it works and it's kind of almost a
Yes.
standard, which is
Yeah.
a good thing. So yeah, so there's benefits to it.
Yeah, it's okay. It looks more quiet now with patent around in the industry.
Yeah, everyone's calmed down a bit.
Yeah, yeah. It's always like when you have a kind of investor for coming from another world, and they come into the kitesurf industry and they want to kill everything and be the king, but they don't really know our rules, they don't really know our world, and they destroy a bit everything and they disappear.
Yeah.
It's more like
And
that.
we wait for the next one to come.
Yeah,
And there's
always.
always someone.
I'm sure.
And you've always been quite passionate about new aspects of the sport. You were very early into wave riding with kites. You were early into kite surfing, from
Yeah.
windsurfing, and then stand-up paddle as well. I know you were super passionate about, and surf foiling and sup foiling and things like that. The big news at the moment everyone's talking about is the wing. And,
Yes.
you know, I've tried it in Tarifa and here, and you are 100% hooked on it. Like, you have this little
Yeah.
twinkle in your eye whenever you're
Yes.
talking about the wing. How did that come about, and where did you first see it, and why did you sort of think that this is going to be the new thing?
when you spend all your time on the water thinking of improving equipment and imagining new things, sometimes you cannot really test every idea you have when you wake up, for sure. But you have them somewhere in your mind, and you say, okay, I have no time for that, but one day we should do this, and one day we should try that. But all our team, like Robert is full occupied, Charles is full occupied. The amount of proto we can get from the factory is not like extendable to unlimited. So you have some ideas that you cannot test, but they are there. And by being a pro windsurfer and having do all we have done into kite surfing, I was sure that one day we could mix the two sports and get the advantage of both. And the foil arrived, the surf foil arrived. It was really impressive already. And every time you have something new on the board, it will change the kite. And when you have something new for the kite, it will change the board, and it's a non-stop like evolution, you know. You have like a new engine, and now you need to change the body of the car and have new wheels because the engine is different, so powerful. Yeah. And then you have a better grip on the rod, and you can put even
bigger engine.
It's a bit like this. You improve the kite, and you change the board, and so. And the big foils of 1200 square centimeter, they change completely the power you need to fly. And so the wings arrived, but they were there since the 80s. We had them windsurfing in the 80s, and they used to be connected by a little piece of mast even. So they came back. It's really impressive. They came back really fast. Really fast.
And what's the feeling that you enjoy so much about it?
And then you see, when you see something new, you have two reactions. This is shit. This is not good. It will never work. Or you have to go and try and make your own idea, you know. So I say, okay, let's try. It looks fun. It's small. It might be really a good combination of windsurfing and kite surfing. And after the first days, I was really impressed. Yeah. Basically, since the beginning, if I test something and I like it, 99% of the people should like it.
Too, yeah.
Too. Normal, you know. So this is how it works for our product and for all the decision we are doing. So I say, wow, this is much better than what I thought. So we get full into it this winter. And it's also so good to start from zero. From scratch like
something
this.
Totally new.
Totally new. Totally new. You cannot know what the other brands are doing. You have to do it by your own. You cannot really see what they are doing. You cannot test something else. You have to imagine everything. So it's super challenging, and you are doing so huge progression during the testing that it's not like the Bandit where it's millimeter by millimeter your progression.
Tiny little
the
changes.
Wings was like, boo! Big fiesta every time.
Big difference every time you get the new prototype. It's like, wow, so much better.
But wow, we had to get into it and improve it fast, be able to deliver, produce. Oh, huge job. Yeah. On top of the rest.
On top of everything else. And you were right about kiting, right about SUP when you got into that.
Yes.
Although that's kind of died a little bit. But then you've been hugely right about foiling.
So I get wrong one time. Huh?
Oh,
remember the source?
Well, I wasn't going to mention the source, Raph.
Yeah, but you should, because it was kind of that light wind summer sport that could be easy for everyone and fun. That was the goal. If you look our video source, it's really, it could be wing.
Yeah.
And it works, you know, that video. Being on the SUP and cruising around in the summer.
I guess you had 2 lines too many.
Yeah, 2 lines too many, too long. But the spirit
The idea was
the
there.
idea behind it's not so far from the wings from today beside the foil, but
Yeah.
cruising around on the SAP with an inflatable light thing that is pulling you up instead of sinking you down. It's the source. We used to ride with 5 or 6 meter line, the source. So 2 lines, but so close to us.
Yeah.
I remember it was impressive, but because every time the kite fall in the water, you could water start, stand up
Yeah. Stand
on
up.
the
throw
board.
it in,
Yeah, it was like bouncing back in the sky. So the only problem was the deep power. 2 lines, we didn't have enough deep power for the public, so it didn't work. But I was wrong that time. The idea was good, but the product was wrong.
So do you think you're right this time about the wing? Are we looking at the next big
Yeah, the
water
source
sport?
I was the only one in the world, but the wings we all into it.
Yeah.
It's funny, huh?
Everyone who seems to try it seems to really enjoy it.
We were talking about our work with Robert Graham, our designer. We try to think why we are in so much sport and discipline now, and Robert is not in the office every day. He's at home in Switzerland and he has an outside view sometimes. So I love to talk to him. He's like over 60, has a lot of experience from sailing, windsurfing, deltaplane, paragliding. He knows all those sports since so long, and he's really always right on the vision of the things. And he said, "Yes, Raph, I know what is your job now." And I say, "What is it?" And he explained me that one day there were a company in Europe making tools for draining metals. I don't know how you call it.
Like a lathe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those ones. And they get in huge trouble not long ago because they get a huge competition from China, Taiwan. And then the boss came and said, "Okay, we're gonna build lasers to instead of those metal tools." And all his staff was like, "No, but we do metal tools, we don't know how to do lasers." And he said, "Our job is not to make metal tools to shred a hole. Our job is to make holes, no matter what you use, laser, metal. If we have to completely change our company, our job is to make holes. So you have to build anything that can make a hole into a metal part." It's a bit the same for us. All we do is kitesurfing is dead since so long. Our job is to build toys to have fun on the water. No matter if it's a wing, a foil, a kite, a windsurfboard with a foil, we also do now. So it's more like building toys for having fun on the water.
It's not a bad way to sum up
This
your
is
job,
the fun
is it?
culture now.
Yeah. What do you do? I build
This
toys
is-
for having fun. It's like every
Yes.
kid's dream.
Yeah, and that's what we sell to people. Toys to have fun. The best and better are the toys and more fun you have.
Yeah.
If you go on a session with shitty equipment, your session is bad, that's for sure.
If you have good equipment, you're having more fun.
Yeah, if
Bigger
your
smile on your
wetsuit
face.
keep you warm, if your harness doesn't hurt your back, if your kite is having the right reaction and can hold like 20 knots of wind range, gusty wind, and can do everything, then you enjoy your session a lot more.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, so that's our new job now. It's not like only kitesurfing. It's all kind of toys. And I can see our customer, they are like this now. If you open a garage today, you have a mountain bike, you have a snowboard, you have a surfboard, a stand-up paddle, a foil, a kite, and people don't really now do only one sport like it used to be in the past. Like
Just surf or just
yeah,
windsurf
we
or
were
just kite.
windsurfer, and And if you look at the new generation of rider, even the pro rider, they do all kind of sport, and they can be top of the world in different sports.
Yeah, Maxime, your riders.
Maxime,
top
Kai
skier,
Lenny,
Kai Lenny, those guys.
Those guys, they don't care. They can grab anything on the water and because they started when they were 6 years old, and there's all those toys in the garage, and they could really enjoy everything. So now it's really changing a lot.
And I guess that presents some challenges, because you then have more things to keep on top of. It's not just you have to have a good kite range, you have to have a good foil range, sub-range, kites,
everything
wings.
has to be global now.
Yeah.
You have to have everything. It's like a car company. They need the coupe, they need the brake, they need the four-wheel drive, they need the family car, and you have to have everything. And our customer, they like F1, they want to get everything from F1.
Yeah, you have quite a lot of customer loyalty, I find. Like if someone rides F1, it comes back to that thing we were saying about being part of the family. And I feel when I come on these trips or when I come and see you guys, I instantly feel like I'm part of the family. And Sophie, your wife's having a go at me for riding motorbikes and being dangerous or hurting myself or doing something stupid. I'm like, oh, she feels like my mother. Yeah. And it's almost like the customers that you have feel that family connection as well, because they, I know people that ride F1 on my local beach at home, and I never see them on anything like F1.
Yeah.
And
you have it on the other brand too, and it's difficult for sure, we try to keep our customer happy, but we need to grab the customer from the other brand
families.
Too. Yeah. Yes.
Steal them across.
Yeah. That's the challenge too. Because the kitesurfing market is not growing. It's kind of stable worldwide. So if you want to increase your number, you need to get customer from somebody else.
Yeah. Which is always the tricky thing, isn't it? I guess that's...
Yes and no, because we were first on foils, and with like the IC6 model was such a success. Then I could see people from other brands buying our foil.
Yeah.
So they
come in
with a Visa card, and they give the Visa card for F1 product, and that's a big change in their mind. And next step, they might buy a kite or something else from us.
Yeah.
But
and then
it was a good
assimilate them into the family eventually, and they'll have the SUP, the wing, because everything.
You have an innovation that maybe the main other brand don't have, then you can get new customers.
Yeah, and
that's what we did with the Bandit.
Yeah, I guess
1 year with the Ball, because we attract customers from
because you had such a good product.
Yeah.
And that comes down to the testimony of the hard work that you and the team put in, and all the testing and the prototyping and the work. And because the product's good, then when people try it, they like it.
Yeah, somehow we are in the small world, so everyone knows, You cannot hide some details now.
Yeah.
With internet and fast information, everybody can know everything quite fast.
Quite quickly.
Quickly. So it's a challenge for the brands, because they can know the good or the bad things.
Yeah,
really
you're accountable.
Yes.
Instantly they can know.
Yeah.
I really like the whole family ethos, though. I think that's probably the nicest thing about what you've created as the owner and manager of the company, and also with your family that are heavily involved in it, and then this team that you have around you. Everyone I meet, from the pro riders to the graphic designers to the people in the office, everyone, like you said, they've got the similar magnetism to your values, and that's why it works. And I think that's one of the testaments to F1. I think as a company,
we try hard.
A really nice aspect of it.
Thank you.
Well, keep doing it, Raph. And,
we try hard.
Hopefully in another 20 years you'll still be here, or Julian will be running it, and you'll just be checking all his stuff and making sure Mika's doing the testing properly, and telling Paul off if he hasn't designed the Bandit 4040 perfectly or something like that.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you, Raphael.
Thank you, Ru.
That was awesome.
A pleasure to have you around. I'm sorry you hurt your feet.
It's just my luck, isn't it? It's crazy.
You could wing only one time. I wanted to see you crossing the lagoon.
I wanted to get it so bad, but Ah, well, there we go. When I get home and when my foot is better, I'll be winging for sure.
But I think it's important. In 10 years, we will remember that you have discovered the wings in Madagascar.
For sure. You never forget.
2019 altogether. It's important for myself to see how you like it, you don't like it, what is your feedback about it. It's cool. Thanks.
Well, 10
Let's
years
wing.
time, we'll look at it.
Let's wing.
Let's go winging. Except I'll go off and do something else.
It's your
My
last
foot
day.
doesn't work. Yeah.
You want to go?
There we have it. Episode 10 in the bag. I always say I'm going to be better at getting these out, but let's be honest, I'm not. So I will do my best to get another episode out in the next couple of weeks and see where we go with that. There's a lot going on the next couple of weeks. Magazine deadlines, 3 of them are looming, so we'll see how that goes. And hopefully I shall manage to get some more podcast content online. As ever, I think quality is better than quantity, so I'd rather put out a really good episode than try and rush an episode out every week and just have some chat going on that's not really that interesting or not really that helpful to you. Hopefully from listening to Raphael and I talking, it inspired you a little bit about how you can perhaps run your business or work within your job, or look at ways you can become more passionate about the water sports that you do and try and focus your life around those passions and enjoying yourself as much as humanly possible, because let's all be honest, we've all got jobs to do and we don't all have the time that we'd like to afford to many of these things. Anyway, as ever, if you could give me a like and a share, there's been some rave reviews on the various app stores, so thank you for those. It's out there on all the platforms now, so just give it a like and give it a share on Facebook, social media, Instagram. Tell your friends about it, let people know about it down the pub. The more people that are listening to these, the more I get inspired to make more of them, and the more I'll continue to do so. I've still got about 15, I think, on a hard drive that I'm trying to blow the dust off. So I'll keep working away at that, and as I come across interesting people along the way, I'll try and sit them down for a quick conversation. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. You've been listening to me, Roo Chater, and the Intriguing Beings podcast.